He had a quiet way about him, a walk and a talk that just wasn't normal around here.
What is so special about Andy Dufresne? This mysterious character is the heart of Shawshank Redemption, a movie that 25 years after its release still rules the IMDb Top 250 list. Shawshank Prison strips its inmates of all they once had.
They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take.
But Andy learns that even when it seems the external world takes everything from you, there's still one arena that's your domain. What goes on inside you when you're alone?
There's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. It's yours.
Andy is a portrait of what it means to have an inner life. A place you can go to inside yourself that gives you refuge and the will to keep on going.
Like he had on an invisible coat that would shield him from this place.
Today, his inwardness is more compelling than ever against the backdrop of our extroverted modern world. So here's our take on how to cultivate your inner life like Andy, and how he teaches us that salvation lies within.
He strolled like a man in a park without a care or a worry in the world.
This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. It's like your own personal film festival, streaming anytime, anywhere. Here are Andy Dufresne's rules for building an inner life. Put your attention where you want it. As W.H. Auden said, choice of attention, to pay attention to this and ignore that, is to the inner life what choice of action is to the outer. And we see that Andy chooses to keep his mind engaged with hobbies that speak to his deliberate analytical nature, like rock sculpting and chess.
Chess. And there's a game of kings.
What?
Civilized, strategic.
While most of the other prisoners request the same few items from Red,
Cigarettes, chewing gum, sipping whiskey, playing cards with naked ladies on them.
the first thing Andy asks Red for is a rock hammer, demonstrating his individuality. And when he does ask for something that others might be interested in too,
What do you want?
Rita Hayworth.
this is a cover. He asks Red for this poster while the other men around him are delighting in watching Hayworth in her iconic role Gilda.
Me?
So Andy wants the image of Rita to make him seem like the others, when in reality the poster which fits in, and the ones that follow of the reigning pinups of later years, Marilyn Monroe and Raquel Welch, mask the true, unusual focus of his attention. In our modern world, attention is chased by commodities and advertisers. It can take real strength of will to feel in control of where we put it. But watching Andy, we see that this act of selection, attending to what you care about instead of what everybody else does, is how an inner life is born. Keep your inner music playing.
I have Mr. Mozart to keep me company.
In dark times, Andy sustains himself by playing music inside his mind.
It's in here. In here. That's the beauty of music. They can't get that from you.
On one level, this is easy to follow practical advice. When you're feeling weak, music can reawaken a deeper strength and help you connect with yourself.
Haven't you ever felt that way about music?
You don't have to be an opera buff like Andy, just listen to what moves you, or sing it to yourself.
Florida don't know what to do.
On a second level, Andy's love of music is symbolic. Here, like in many other movies, music represents emotion because it's perhaps the best pathway to our emotions, as the film's own score demonstrates by imploring the audience to feel the story. Andy's key act of rebellion isn't to start a riot, it's to play Mozart's opera The Marriage of Figaro over the loudspeaker.
It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away.
And this is a dangerous act because it allows his fellow prisoners to feel, which is precisely what the warden doesn't want them to do, as that might make them remember they deserve to be treated as human beings.
And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt free.
When the going gets rough, it seems logical to stop feeling and numb yourself. But to do that represents a kind of death. Emotion is your life source.
I like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words, and makes your heart ache because of it.
Have a dream. People talk about picturing your happy place. This is exactly what Andy does. He has a concrete dream that he can see in his mind to live out the rest of his days in Zihuatanejo, Mexico.
Buy some worthless old boat and fix it up new.
Red misunderstands this dream as an illusion that Andy retreats into to distract himself from reality.
I don't think you ought to be doing this to yourself, Andy. This is just shitty pipe dreams. I mean, Mexico is way the hell down there, and you're in here, and that's the way it is.
But for Andy, this dream is a mental destination, and he proves to his friend that a dream can be fuel, driving you to make the impossible real.
I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams.
Find a friend who gets you. Andy isn't liked or understood when he first comes to Shawshank,
Rumor has it you're a real cold fish. You think your shit smells sweeter than most.
but he makes a wise choice when it comes to the first person he opens up to. Red has the imagination to see Andy's differentness as a gift.
I think it would be fair to say I liked Andy from the start.
Without this friend who's open-minded enough to get him,
Man likes to play chess. Let's get him some rocks.
Andy wouldn't have forged a link to the group of guys whose camaraderie sustains him. And without this friend who challenges him, Red would never have managed to build a new life on the outside. Thus, just one friendship with a person who sees what's best in you provides that necessary bridge between your private self and the rest of the world. Put up a fight. Andy quickly becomes the sisters' #1 target, but he resists every single time.
Sometimes he was able to fight him off, sometimes not.
When the odds are against you, it might be more logical to give in and save yourself the beating.
Let's get this over with.
My husband tells me you're a great believer.
But if he did this, that would mean they'd broken his spirit as well as his body. So Andy's philosophy is that however many times you lose to cruelty and abuse, you have to keep fighting, if only to prove to yourself that you still have that fight in you.
In fact, I hear the bite reflex is so strong, they have to pry the victim's jaws open with a crowbar.
Integrate little touches of beauty into your life. Andy prioritizes making life more bearable through little niceties.
I think a man working outdoors feels more like a man if you can have a bottle of suds.
Even if you're not constrained from having a beer whenever you want to, it can still be easy to forget the power of small human touches to infuse life with grace.
He spent that break hunkered in the shade, a strange little smile on his face, watching us drink his beer.
Don't put a prison around your mind.
These walls are funny. First you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you get so you depend on them.
Being institutionalized has something in common with Stockholm Syndrome. You become complicit in your own imprisonment.
Maybe I should get me a gun and rob the foodway so they'd send me home.
The part of you that once desired freedom now fears it.
All I want is to be back where things make sense, where I won't have to be afraid all the time.
Director and screenwriter Frank Darabont has said the idea of institutionalization represents hope versus despair. In Brooks's story, despair wins. Meanwhile, Andy represents the path to internal freedom, which means refusing to get comfortable with prison life.
Better get used to that idea.
Like Brooks did.
Henri Frédéric Amiel said, quote, "The man who has no inner life is the slave of his surroundings."
It's your world, boss.
You need to build something within as a protection, or the external will decide who you are.
I'm an institutional man now.
Wow, you underestimate yourself.
And as Andy teaches, you don't have to let those walls into your mind. Let pain change you for the better. The Andy we glimpse before he's wrongfully convicted may not be a murderer, but he is a cold, withdrawn person.
My wife used to say I'm a hard man to know, like a closed book.
You strike me as a particularly icy and remorseless man, Mr. Dufresne. It chills my blood just to look at you.
And when we first see him, he's drunk out of his mind, considering violence. A man not in control of himself.
Those were the words you used, Mr. Dufresne, according to the testimony of your neighbors.
If they say so. I really don't remember I was upset.
So it's clear that pre-Shawshank Andy didn't have this rich inner life. Prison is what changes him for the better. Early on, he gives up alcohol,
Want a cold one, Andy?
No thanks. Gave up drinking.
which is an external influence people use to occupy their inner selves. So already it's a sign he's subtly reorienting himself toward what comes from within. Others cope with the extreme cruelty of their world by becoming desensitized or acting out the worst versions of themselves.
They have to be human first. They don't qualify.
But part of what keeps Andy's dignity intact is remembering that everyone else around him is a human being too, deserving of basic respect.
What was his name?
So while most people become worse when life gets worse, Andy uses the bad as an opportunity to nurture an inner strength he hadn't before accessed. And while he has good reason to be bitter,
How long's he been here now?
1947? What is that? 19 years?
when he lets the rain wash him clean after his escape, washing off the literal shit of the prison represents how he won't be dragged down by the dark, negative emotions that have claimed so many before him.
Andy Dufresne, who crawled through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side.
Express your inner world in the outer. Andy decides that the fault that got him into this whole mess was keeping his private self locked up.
God, I loved her. I just didn't know how to show it, that's all.
In prison, Andy corrects his error of failing to show his wife love by taking steps to demonstrate to the people around him that he cares.
Little parole rejection present.
Ironically, in this story about inner life, we never experience Andy's inner thoughts directly. We only see this person through the point of view of Red, as he pieces together his friend's state of mind. Yet Andy's determination makes such an evident mark on the world that it's like his inner life is outwardly visible. Give yourself a project. One of the best ways to express your inner life is to find a project that energizes your inner passion.
Andy had transformed a storage room smelling of rat turds and turpentine into the best prison library in New England.
Andy uses his mental freedom to give the other men tools to develop their inner worlds, as symbolized by the library he builds for them.
Robert Louis
Stevenson. Fiction, adventure.
Andy starts small but succeeds due to consistent effort
I'll write a letter a week. They can't ignore me forever.
and persistence,
Please stop sending us letters.
even to the point of becoming an annoyance.
It only took 6 years. From now on, I'll write 2 letters a week instead of 1.
When you're in a difficult situation, time becomes an enemy, another thing holding you captive.
Prison time is slow time, so you do what you can to keep going.
But once you channel your energy into something constructive that you can control, time is on your side, a resource at your disposal.
I think it'll take years.
What years I got?
Invest in people.
Now he needed a new project. Tommy was it.
Educating Tommy is Andy's most rewarding investment.
The kid passed, C+ average. Thought you'd like to know.
The risk in investing in people, though, is that hurt can come when those people are lost. Tommy's murder is the thing that comes closest to breaking Andy. At a certain point, if the external world is all wrong, the inner life has to find a way to break out.
I guess after Tommy was killed, Andy decided he'd been here just about long enough.
Escape your prison.
You like it. It's about a prison break.
Well, we ought to file that on the educational too.
When Andy escapes from Shawshank prison, we learn that he's been working away at his tunnel for nearly 20 years.
That's all it takes, really. Pressure and time. That and a big goddamn poster.
Rock by rock, night by night, he's been laying the groundwork for a successful escape all along.
Randall Stevens.
Who?
The silent partner. He's the guilty one, Your Honor. The man with the bank accounts.
Until that moment, he didn't exist. Except on paper.
Everything he's done to keep his spirit alive hasn't been just to console himself or compensate for a lifetime of captivity. It's been to steel himself to enact real change. Andy's deep well of hope and resolve allows him to transcend the stench and the claustrophobic space of his crawl to freedom.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine.
And this is an act that very few people could pull off, precisely because of the mental fortitude it would demand. So his commitment to staying free within has directly led to his actual escape from prison. Save yourself. At the start, Andy's situation at Shawshank looks pretty dire, but it steadily gets better over time thanks to his taking smart and daring steps to improve his position.
I'm a convicted murderer who provides sound financial planning. It's a wonderful pet to have.
Got you out of the laundry, though, didn't it?
When the warden tells Andy,
Salvation lies within.
the irony in the warden's words is that Andy's salvation did lie within, in the form of the tiny hammer, which represents the slow but steady action he was taking to set himself free. The warden is Andy's inverse. Despite his recitation of Bible verses and appearance of godliness, Warden Norton has no inner life, as symbolized by the fact that during their exchange he never opens Andy's Bible. If he had, he'd have found the rock hammer hidden inside, right under his nose. Whereas Andy becomes a model for what it means to live from the inside out, the warden's Inside Out prison labor program,
Warden Norton instituted his famous Inside Out program.
mainly a pretext for him to collect bribes, represents how he's living the wrong way around.
He's got his fingers in a lot of pies from what I hear.
You got scams you haven't even dreamed of.
In the end, the warden's spotless outer appearance is destroyed, as symbolized by the perfectly shined shoes Andy steals to replace with his own dirty ones. At this point, the hollowed-out warden has no more reason to live. By the end of the story, nearly everyone gets their just desserts. But this karma isn't necessarily the divine judgment of an external deity. It's also a logical expression of the idea that who you are on the inside determines what becomes of you. With enough pressure and enough time, all that's inside us will be revealed. The movie's title tells us this is a story of redemption. This is the story of how Andy inspires the redemption of others at the prison, especially Red, who owns his guilt for what he did,
Only guilty man in Shawshank.
but in order to complete his atonement has to discover faith in a new life. Andy is a kind of Jesus Christ figure in this story. When he's baptized in the rain, he takes on the position of the crucifixion. He suffers for the sins of others and saves souls. And when he exchanges Bible verses with the warden, each man's choice of passage is significant. Andy selects one that wryly describes the warden's popping in on him.
Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh.
While the warden picks one in the voice of Jesus,
I'm the light of the world.
to insinuate that he himself is essentially the one true God around this place, and therefore that Andy should serve him.
He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life.
But because the warden is Andy's opposite, we might read his arrogant selection as implying that he's a kind of antichrist, while Andy is the true light in this world. Reserve a few secrets just for yourself. As much as the inner must out, along the way, Andy keeps most of his big plans to himself. Key moments of drama derive from Red misinterpreting his friend's behavior, like when he thinks that Andy is fantasizing about these ladies on the posters and that's enough of an escape for him, and when he assumes that the thing Andy wants him to dig up
There's something buried under it I want you to have.
is something that was buried in the past, not something to be buried in the future, which is why on that fateful night, Red believes Andy is going to kill himself rather than escape. Andy can often be seen wearing a mysterious little smile, and this comes from those cherished secrets that are only his. Keep hope alive. There's a word Andy uses to describe the mysterious force that fills the inner space, the life in inner life.
What are you talking about?
Hope.
All the ways that Andy gives to the people around him, the beers, the music, the library, the tutoring, are part of a larger effort to offer them hope. Red thinks that hope in a hopeless situation is poison.
Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It's got no use on the inside.
But for Andy, it's the thing you can't live without, the thing that makes you human.
Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
He plants the seed of hope to grow in Red, feeding Red's inner life until his too can't help but manifest in the outer world.
I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel. A free man at the start of a long journey.
Red's turning point comes when, instead of saying the words he thinks the parole board wants to hear,
You feel you've been rehabilitated? Oh, yes, sir.
he finally speaks candidly and shows his soul.
That kid's long gone. This old man is all that's left.
And what the board sees in him that moves them to approve his parole is what you might call an inner life.
So you go on and stamp your form, Sonny, and stop wasting my time. Because to tell you the truth, I don't give a shit.
Andy proves that inner life is power. In the film's last scene, the wide open beach is a visualization of his inner world, his dream, which has now fully become as real externally as it's long been inside. In our social media age, our lives seem more public than ever before. Today's society tells us that we are only what we look like on the outside. But if you look back, society has long been in the business of making people feel that way. In his essay, Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson argues that, quote, "the voices which we hear in solitude grow faint and inaudible as we enter into the world. Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members." He also writes, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind." On the inside is slang for being in prison.
I guess he had a lot on his mind, trying to adapt to life on the inside.
But this is the story of a man who began with everything seemingly good on the outside.
On the outside, he'd been vice president of a large Portland bank.
And lost all that because his insides were starved, inaccessible, out of reach. What's so inspirational about Andy's story is that the point you might expect to be the end of his life
I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back.
is just the beginning. By getting things right on the inside, he manifests so much outer power that no walls can contain the will of this free bird.
Some birds aren't meant to be caged.
Get busy living, or get busy dying.
This is Susanna, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite places to watch movies. Mubi is a treasure trove of films. I've actually been a subscriber for years. Every day they premiere a new one. Whether it's a movie you've been dying to see or one you've never heard of before, there's always something new to discover. So in this world where it's very easy to spend hours debating what you should watch, Mubi is like having a really cool friend with amazing taste in movies, making it so much easier for you. They feature hard-to-come-by masterpieces, indie festival darlings, influential art house and foreign films, lesser-known films by your favorite famous directors, and more. Plus, you can even download the films to watch offline, and there are no ads ever. One movie you can check out right now on Mubi is Hammett, Wim Wenders' neo-noir about novelist Dashiell Hammett getting involved in a mystery just like the ones he wrote about. We can't recommend Mubi highly enough. You can try it out right now for free for a whole month. Just click the link in the description below.